We're going to move on. Today, I struggled with this training because I wanted to do something that mattered. But what we've been doing, I'm sure you guys have noticed people coming in your classroom with sheets, checking stuff off. And that is, those were the people that you saw on the screen before that you would have seen doing that. And so what we're going to do is I've talked to a couple other people and join together the problems that when we come in, or opportunities for growth to be positive, that are repetitive and at every center. So when we do this training, this is not looking at everything that NECPA, which is accreditation, and licensing and our new quality rating system requires. This is stuff that we have seen repetitively that could use some improvement agency wide. And it's all about teaching with intention. And that sounds like it's not much, but it is the most important thing you do. And I know it's hard. I've noticed, I thought that was my child saying mom. I've noticed that it's hard on you teachers. Um, and I guess some people are not at the point to where teaching with intention comes easily. But we're stepping our game up now. So we have to do it. And what that is meaning is that you are planning, you are intentionally putting out your materials and setting up your centers every single day, watching children play and saying, oh, they're really interested in doing hair. I think I'm going to set up a hair shop next week. And the reason this is so important, we do a lot of behavior trainings. This is the number one thing you can do to minimize behaviors, because busy kids are not bad kids. Engaged children don't have tantrums. So just so you can understand more, at the very we have licensing rules at the very top. Those are still in effect. You guys know this big old packet. That's some rules that we're following, right? Those are minimal standards. And then you go down to this new tool that took the place of Itters, Eckers, Sakers. It's a step up. um, you're looking at interactions, health, safety. It's high quality, and it is based off of what they call best practice, and we're going to find out what that is. But then we have started the process of becoming accredited, which is even another step higher. This is what we're coming in the rooms mostly for right now, to try to get us to the highest quality that we can be. So those are the three things, okay? And each has different rules. Well, I can't see. So we want to know that we can trust what is in those books. So what I've done is I talked to a couple of people, and I have compiled a list of everything NECPA used over the past 25 years. This has been being developed for 25 years and being used. Okay. And when they did come up with this book, they based it on the past 30 years of research in the field of early care. They got their research from best practice, safety of products, even science. The Academy of Pediatrics, like, this is not just people threw stuff together. This is big time stuff. This book, it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, all the information that's in it, all the research and time and money that they've spent. But I like to know that what you're telling me has been proven. I'm not going to just trust it. Miss Tyler comes to me and says, you know what? It is just best if the whole room is pink. It's going to calm the kids down. Well, we don't go with that. We want to see the stuff that's been proven. Same thing with the quality ratings. I talked to one of the ladies who had helped develop that. Look at all that they've used. You remember class? Some of you weren't here when we were doing class, but I've been a class trainer for a long time. That was a big source in helping develop it. Caring for our children, institutes, Peabody Research Institute, which is like half of the research in early childhood. Um, so I loved this quote. It's from the Dunning Kruger effect, and look it up if you never have. But it's trust evidence, not opinion. Do not be so mindless to think that your experience is superior to hundreds of years of data. And just for to see it myself on me, I compared myself to them. Okay. And this is why I know we can trust them. I have opinions, and my opinions, a lot of times, might not meet what they're telling me to do. I mean, I can think of several things right now, especially with Idders and Eckers. There were some things in there. Oh gosh, they used to make me so mad. But I'm not always going to agree with them. But look what I have versus what they have. All right. I'm not going to read all that off, but you're talking the world. They're seeing the whole world, centuries, following longitudinal studies of people when they were 12 months old until they're 30 years old. They know their stuff. I do not. And I will never share those opinions I have of you, of like the way I raise my daughter, right? There are things that I do with her that they would not agree with. But when I come into your classroom or your center, I'm never going to share my limited opinion with you. It will always be based on NECPA, licensing, QRS, best practice. Because I don't know. All I know is what works for her. They know what works for the majority of children, and they've seen it all. So that's why we can trust them. I need to know that. So there's this thing, I'm sure you've heard it, the same brain. This is really messing me up, y'all. So the same brain, we had to do this when I was an Idders Eckers assessor. That was their thing. Yeah, you gotta have the same brain, same brain. This is what it is. So in order to run a program that is the best of the best, anybody here, from your directors to your founders to the floaters, we all have to have the same brain. Now that's not meaning some of us are artistic, some of us are visual, we all have our wonderful gifts. But as far as what we do with these kids, in order for us to be successful in all centers, we all have to share the same brain as far as standards go. We all have to be doing exactly what these books say, or it's going to fail. You know, if we're going to shine, that's how we're going to do it. And we're trusting these programs that we have just seen are very reliable. You know, we got to put our trust in them. You can still do your special stuff, you can be an individual, but we all, even if we don't like it, we all have to get on the accreditation train, basically. Um, and another thing I've heard in the field is that when they took away Idders, Eckers, Sakers, there was nothing but licensing. Okay, licensing, those rules are minimal standards. What you got to do to stay open. All right. So during that time, lots of opinions flooded the early childhood field. which is Deborah had said that is one of the reasons for NECPA is because it became saturated with, well, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to do this. So now they're trying to get everybody's quality back up. Even licensing now is following what research says is best practice. And again, we're doing this in accreditation, but we all have to be on board, and we can still be creative and we can still be kinesthetic and do our own thing in the classroom, but we have to follow what they say. And so now we're going to look at what is best practice. Like you hear that all the time. Well, it is just based upon DAP, developmentally appropriate practice. It's just all it is teaching things that are appropriate for the children's levels. Okay. Best practice is play, 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 play. You're going to see that over and over again. Guided by staff, not just y'all go play like I just did. It is being a teacher as the children play. That's best practice. Intentional teaching. Every day thinking about it, not just coming in to get a job done, watch these kids and go home. It's being intentional in your classroom every day. The two main influences that they created developmentally appropriate practice from, Vygotsky and Piaget. All right, so we're going to look at them a little bit. I think it's so important for you to know why we're doing this. Why are we having to follow all these rules? These guys from, like, I don't even know the years, but these guys are the ones who started best practice and developmentally appropriate practice. Piaget, he's the guy that has all of these stages of development. The only two you need to worry about is the ages 0 to 2. They call it sensory motor stage. And it's just where infants think by moving and by smelling, seeing, tasting. That's what that's based upon. And if they do it repetitively, and there's a little soft animal, okay, my little teddy bear, all it is to me is just a soft sensation. But when they repetitively do it, it eventually becomes labeled a toy. Then you move to ages 2 to 7, pre-operational. That is basically that it's just the symbol stage. It's that stage where you are being realistic and imaginative at the same time. And the way you can help is let them explore, let them play. All right. I love this guy. I watch a lot of his stuff. I feel like I'm still in college. He's a professor and he posts his lessons, and I love it. This is that sensory motor stage. Hold on, let me pause. Yes.
One thing too that I think is important as far as play goes, that doesn't mean is you just let them go play. It means that if they're building with blocks, you ask them what they're building, or you help them. Or if they're playing in dramatic play and they're being mommy, or they're doing a beauty shop, you're involved in what they're doing. And that's how they learn, and that's how there's so many skills that develop that way. But when you just say, okay, go play, then you get toys being around the room.
And dump, and that's when the behaviors happen.
So you have to, being intentional means you engage with them.
That's right.
And it doesn't have to be for a long time. You don't have to play the whole 30 minutes with the baby dolls thing. You can just be like, oh, let's see what's oh, she's crying, she wants her mommy back. But that's engaging and it helps.
Yeah. And hopefully we're going to watch several videos that is going to help you understand that. And I know sometimes for people it's awkward to act like a child and act like you don't know this information, like, oh, the baby's crying, wonder why. But that's what early childhood is. It's playing, being silly, leading them, acting like you do not know, so that way they can solve it. All right, let's watch this guy. Oh, wait, we're
All
going to
right.
start at 35.
Now we get to use. First of all, Jean Piaget was a Swiss biologist. He brought the mind of a biologist into understanding children. Now, the old idea at the time was that children's minds were just like adult minds, with less knowledge. Children were seen as the same as adults, their minds functioning the same, just less knowledge and skills. So, of course, education was just pouring more knowledge and skills. Piaget said, he rejected that. He said, brains develop through a series of stages. Our thinking naturally becomes more complex, and this change happens from the inside out. And this is the biologist in him speaking. So the new idea is that the type of thinking that children engage in is qualitatively different than that of an adult. Children think differently, qualitatively, not just quantitatively, and that the mind develops through successively higher levels of organization and integration. The quality of one stage is dependent on the tasks and quality on the other. We can provide instruction, but it has to be at the appropriate level. Children will not be ready to learn if they are not ready to develop mentally, if their mind has not progressed to that next stage. And the sixth one, if children are ready developmentally, cognitively ready to learn, they will be interested in the topic if it is developmentally appropriate. And we're going to talk a whole lot about that. If they are not ready to learn, they are not ready to comprehend. They won't be interested, no matter how many jelly beans you give them. So Piaget's stages of cognitive development, changes in thinking, it's a developmental process, occurs naturally as our brain develops, and it goes through these 4 stages, and we'll look at each one specifically. First, sensory motor. Approximately birth to age 2, cognitive development here is enhanced by the ability to move. You are influenced by your senses. You can see different things. An important cognitive milestone at this stage is object permanence. Daddy puts it behind his back and you know that it still exists even though it is not in your field of vision. A second major accomplishment is goal-directed actions. That's the ability to contemplate and carry out more than one action to reach a goal. For example, if a child can't open a cardboard box to get a cookie, he or she would get some sort of tool to help open the box. Goal-directed action. Pre-operational stage, approximately age 2. Operation here means an action carried out through logic. Pre-operation, before logical thinking. At this stage, vocabulary range from 200 to around 2,000 words. That's a lot of words they are taken in. This stage is marked by irreversible thinking. Child can only think in one direction. 2 plus 1 equals 3, but 1 plus 2, I don't know. These are the characteristics of a cat. A lynx has these characteristics, therefore a lynx is a cat, and they can't reverse that type of thinking. Reversible thinking. Put that in the opposite way. At this stage, children are highly egocentric, meaning that they have trouble taking another point of view. They still see the world only in their terms. This is my daddy. It can't be my grandmother's son or my brother's uncle because it is my daddy. Conservation, a major learning task that occurs near the end of this stage. Even though the characteristics of an object change, the amount or volume stays the same. Here's 2 glasses of water, pour one in a tall, skinny one. The child might say, uh-oh, there's more there because it's bigger. That's conservation. It's a major task to accomplish at this stage. And this is pre-logical. Children are not always able to distinguish fact from fantasy. They use emotions to know the world, primarily through emotions. One of these two lines is longer. Well, logically we can see that, but it's pre-logical.
So I forgot to do it, but you know that conservation thing, if you have a really tall skinny cut versus a very wide one, and you take like these and you fill them to the very top, they have to be exactly the same. And I would say to Ella, which is age going on 7, she'll be 7, so I'm gonna do it. I meant to do it this week, but then you dump, you say, "Are these the same amount?" And she says, "Yes." Somebody needs to mute. Somebody's unmuted. Um, and then you pour this into the tall, skinny glass and this into the fat, wide glass and say, "Okay, now, are these the same?" And most of the time before age 7, they'll say, "No, that one's got more because it's taller." But that's a way to test your child's intellect. If they're, between the ages of 5 and 7, give it a try. I'm going to do it this week. I was hoping to do it last week so I could share the results, but super cool. Oh, there's so many cool experiments you can. Maybe my kids are guinea pigs, but I used to do that self-control thing on them. I know y'all have seen that, where you put jelly beans in front of them and you say, "Okay, I'm going to walk out for 2 minutes. And when I come back, if the 2 jelly beans are still there, I'll give you 20." And Britain never could pass it. Kennedy passed it every time. And it's testing what's your strength, your willpower. Oh, so fun. All right, guys, let's move on to
Concrete.
Oh, oh wait. Okay, look how precious he is. I just love Piaget. He is so cute. We're gonna watch this on Piaget. It's 2 minutes.
This is part 6 of our little Piagetian adventure. We're going to look at some classroom applications of this theory. Active exploration and inquiry learning should be emphasized. Lots of messing about. Students learn best through active exploration to discover, and this is more likely to retain the information rather than just passively receiving stuff. Instruction should be developmentally appropriate. Provide the instruction only when the child is ready and when the child is interested. Number 3, you want to maximize curiosity. Create this cognitive dissonance, but at the same time, minimize frustration. That means the variety of input needs to match students' schemes. This maximizes the disequilibrium and the desire to learn. If you get too far out in front, you're going to create frustration. So you want to maximize disequilibrium or curiosity, but you don't want to frustrate them. Don't want to get too far out ahead. Play is a very important way to learn. This is how young children learn. Exploring, messing around, finding the properties of things. Play can be used in a curriculum to reinforce other types of learning as well. Social interaction. Children learn a great deal by interacting with each other. That means use cooperative learning, peer interaction, as well as collaborative activities.
Okay. I want to go over this because it's really an example of what you guys are doing right now. So this adaptation of schemas, it's by Piaget. It makes so much sense. So you entered into here with a certain amount of knowledge about the classroom in your brain. So when you come in here and you hear all this information that we're going to be talking about today, you are having to assimilate it into your prior knowledge, okay? So then you go to the next stage, which is disequilibrium. Wait, she's saying something that I haven't done before. I am a little messed up now. This is where it matters, what you do with that information. You can take everything that you've learned at the training today that you do not agree with, that doesn't match what you've got in your head, and you can just throw it out. And that's where learning stops, right? You don't learn from today. Or you can say, I'm going to accommodate this into my brain with this other stuff I have. And then you get back to equilibrium and learning has occurred. Same thing with the kids. They get new information. And that's why it's important that learning is joyful. Because guess what they're going to do if they go, okay, this is new information, but it's not a joyful experience? They definitely aren't going to learn, because they will never accommodate it and they'll never reach equilibrium. They'll just either stay confused or throw it out and be stubborn minded. I mean, this is where stubborn comes from. You know, it's so funny to me that everything has a reason. Like, it's not just, oh, well, he's a stubborn bud. He just gets to a stage and he's like, yeah, this doesn't fit with what I have in my head right now, and I'm always right. Throw it out. I got somebody like that. Number 2 is disequilibrium. You assimilate it and then you get confused at disequilibrium and you decide whether to throw it out or accommodate it into your brain. Where's my little thingies? Okay. Wrong button, Jen.
Classroom.
Okay. Vygotsky. They call him Lev Vygotsky. This is zone of proximal development. It is the foundation of learning. ZPD. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember it from, this is basic. This is where you have in your little circle, that purple circle is stuff that they already know and they can do by themselves. What you're trying to get them to is where they don't know that information, the green circle, but they can learn it and complete the task with your assistance, which Miss Vivian, we were just talking about that the other day. If you're just throwing a lesson at these kids and they get it wrong and that's it. Here's this sheet, we got to get it done today. That's it. They never, it becomes either out of reach or it's something they already understand. You've got to help them in the green, and that's when learning occurs. All right. Now, this was a big part of Vygotsky as well. There was a huge study called CADE study, and it showed, and this is a long time ago, it showed that teacher-imposed seat work leads to children's emotional stress when it is the teacher's choice. If it is the child's choice to sit down and do this work, learning occurs. If it's the teacher's choice and the child is not interested, it's just stress and not learning.
I think that's why, like in Miss Julie's room, everything is hands-on and animated and fun, and several other classrooms too. I think that's why they do engage, is because
Exactly.
it's fun, it's exciting, it's, the kids are part of that, they get to be helpers, and I think you can't just go into a classroom and say, okay, sit down, we're gonna do this worksheet.
Right.
It has to be enticing and engaging, and then they'll want to do it.
Yeah, and you're also with them every step of the way, so they're not scared to fail because you're going to be right there to give them that extra step. No cry, because I'm emotional right now. It's true. It is magical when you give them that step they need and they succeed.
If I see they're not ready,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you really worked hard on that, and you just move on. You don't tell them they're wrong. You don't tell them because they're just not. They're just not. Their mind is just not ready for it.
Yeah.
And our job at this stage is to expose them so those that are ready can grasp it and go. And if they're not, they've been exposed and they'll come around.
Exposure, exactly.
That whenever you are explaining,
Yes.
before they work on the board, please put on their head.
And it's like, she just doesn't, they don't get frustrated in a small group because I take those kids back to where they are or up to where they are. And so the ones that are ahead don't get bored and the ones
There you go.
that are not, they don't get frustrated. Yeah.
The small group, she does, rather than huge groups, sit down, everybody be quiet. And she was also saying if a child doesn't get it right, she doesn't say, you got that wrong, try again. She's like, oh, you tried really hard, and you go on, because you can't give them that negative association with learning. And that she does small groups during free play. You got your 3 groups, which actually we're fixing to cover, I think. Let's see what I got on it. Okay, here's going to be a great example of scaffolding. Okay, so Lev, our Vygotsky guy, he wants you to get them to that zone of proximal development for them to learn. Anyway else, they're not going to. This is going to be a great example to show you how to scaffold. Not only do you interact when they're playing or doing their lesson, you do this. Let's watch this. Oh, every time I move something, it does that.
The notion of scaffolding is something that early childhood teachers know a lot about. They know that it's part of their job to be there to support as children are learning new skills and new understandings. But it's also important for us as early childhood teachers to know just when to apply the appropriate type of support and scaffolding. So when to use a language, when to actually intervene and model, and when to be engaged in quite explicit front loading. And by this I mean that we might in fact actually provide all sorts of ways of engaging with a context, all sorts of new learning, ready for children to take that forward into their own explorations as they inquire and engage in problem solving in order to learn new things.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Scaffolding is something that professional teachers know is about providing the appropriate support at the appropriate time. It's not just a matter of teaching somebody how to do something and then letting them go to practice. We might move in, we might move out. We want spaces where children can engage themselves and think about learning, take risks, learn new things. And then we want spaces where they are in fact engaging both with other experts, children and adults, in ways that provide support around their learning that allow them to engage in ways that they might not be able to do by themselves.
I want to make sure I get my thinking right, because their numbers are getting a bit bigger. So because they're getting bigger, I sometimes get a bit confused. So let me go back. I'm going to start again and check and see how I'm going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next number I think is 8. Yep. Can you see how when I get a bit stuck, I just go back and start counting again? And that helps me think about the sequence and the order of the numbers.
After we'd done the whole class part of the lesson, I did split the children into separate groups, and they were differentiated groups. So I did have my lower level learners to an average group through to my top end, my high flying kids.
Hey, I just want everybody pay attention to this, because this is what we were just talking about that Miss Julie does in her classroom. Now, you won't be able to go this extreme because we might not have the, teachers to cover. You might not be able to take them outside. But she does this within the room, the classroom.
And so each activity was targeted to that level of learners. My lower level children, I worked with them. I took them outside, recognising that those kids had had a fair bit of time sitting on the carpet. They're the ones in particular that needed to be out and moving. So we were outside, we were moving about, and I was able to help them to sequence the numbers through to 20 while they're having the opportunity to actually get a bit physical as well.
14. We need 17. 12. Hey, should we do it the other way? So move the 20 here and then it goes that way? No. I think. Last one. Thank you. 20. There. Done.
The children working on the carpet were my higher flying children who I know can sequence numbers to 20. They would have been able to jump through the hoops without too much thought. So I wanted to see how much further they could take this. Scaffolding is really important in the early years. It helps to, again, it's developing the children's confidence. It's giving them step by step the gradual release to them being able to do it themselves.
There we go. So now what we're doing is we're going to assimilate this information that's coming ahead into our schemas. This is not a list. Remember, I said at the beginning, this is not a list of everything that is required in those 3 things we're following. That would take 4 weeks to do trainings on all of those. This is just stuff that I have seen repetitively and a couple others, their information that I had. So the list, what we're going to look at some materials and furniture, display, centers, room arrangement, interaction, schedule routines, group times, health and safety. All right. All righty. Materials and furniture. So many classrooms. Too much stuff. They get not too many types of toys. That's good. You want lots of types. But sometimes there'll be 400 types of little bitty fine motor things in one bucket, all right? And it's in a 3-year-old classroom. What do? And then you spend all the... So it's just overstimulation. And I'm not saying it's bad to have 300 little bitty pieces in a container. Or I've seen having 30 to 40 shells. All right. And those 2.5, 3.5-year-olds, just throw them, stick them in their pockets, take them home. How do we fix that? You start with many types. So you got shells, leaves that are laminated, and sticks or whatever. You're not going to have 30, 30, and 30. You're going to have 5, 5, and 5. That's where you're going to start. Maybe even 3, 3, and 3, depending on your class size. What you can do is, so say Melissa buys you a science collection and there's 40 of each type. Get you some Ziploc bags and write your name on them, and somebody needs to mute, take all of them but 10, put them in your little bag and put them in a special place. All right. Then you're going to sit down at the table every single day and you're going to pull out those 3 collections and you're going to pull them out on the table and you're going to count them and you're going to observe them with little magnifying glasses and you're going to smell them. And the kids then know what they're for, instead of just, what kind of sound do these make when I dump them? And then you're going to keep doing this every day. Sometimes I'll come in and I'll give you guys a first then board, which I have a copy of, and you'll use it twice and then be done with it. It takes 21 days to form a habit. So you might have to do this for 2 weeks. Sit down at the table with the buckets, sort them, pick out the differences, continue those interactions. And as time goes by, you're going to get your little bag and you're going to add 5 more and 10 more. And eventually you're going to get back to that same number that Melissa's purchased, but these kids are going to know how to play with it. One more thing, I think I'll cover it later. You always introduce things to your kids at circle time. You get a bucket of stuff that's brand new. You're going to sit in circle time. You're going to go over everything and how it's used. These kids, so many of them do not know how to play because we're not being intentional and showing them what the toys are actually for. They don't know most of the time. Organizing your classroom. Oh man, how important. Are they saying? Yeah.
I'm passing one over the Bibles. There's
Somebody needs to mute themselves, please. I think I can. Okay, so basically, if things are not organized, guys, your whole day is going to be poo because kids are not going to take the time to come in and sort through stuff so that way they can play with the game. You got to organize every single day. Sometimes I'll go to this one certain classroom and I'll go in there, I'll organize, come back next week. It's a whole mess again. Redo it. We just have to be intentional. Okay, moving on. Indoor gross motor materials. I want to show you how easy this can be. Portable and stationary gross motor materials. Remember that they have to be inside and outside. So accessible just means they can be used. You don't have to do 90 minutes of only gross motor play in the classroom on a rainy day, but the materials do need to be there and you do need to assist them using them. But stationary equipment inside, that doesn't mean that you have to have a balance beam inside. So I wanted to make these for you guys, but then I realized attaching it to a wall, it wasn't going to work. So these little hands right here, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you can talk to your director and see if there's a way that you can draw them maybe on a door. I don't know, but definitely talk to your director before you do it. Put it on some anchored furniture. You put these two hands right here in your calm down corner and somebody's being real wild and you tell them to go do their wall pushes. Once that's attached to the wall, that becomes stationary equipment. You can also do 2 feet on the ground. You could do jumping jack feet where you got 2 here and 2 there. You could do just jumping feet, stomping feet, things like that. Guys, here's the hands. And then you can also do feet and work with your director on how to attach those to something sturdy. Because if we just, I was going to laminate them and, put them on the wall with whatever, but they're going to come off. So we'll have to think through that, do some research about that. A balance beam inside stationary is a piece of tape. Talk to your directors. I don't know what kind of floor you have. Hopscotch. Somebody's going to need to mute themselves, please. I can't find anybody. Who are you? Help me on. Oh, here it is, Tiffany. Why can't I mute her? Tiffany, mute all. Allow participants. Let's not allow. Yeah. Okay, everybody's muted now, I think. So yeah, portable for outside or portable for inside can even be scarves, bean bags with the bucket, beach balls. Anybody here from Madisonville? Madisonville, 2-year-old classroom. They have 2 beach balls that just float around in their classroom. Greatest thing I've ever seen. It was so successful. Don't be scared of beach balls. Stepping stones. All right. Come on. Okay. Outside gross motor play. Infants 2 to 3 times a day, but no limits on time. So 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, whatever, is what the QRIS says. I didn't find any limits on accreditation. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. So that's where we would be following our outside. Toddlers 60 to 90, preschool 90 to 120. What I really want to emphasize here is those playground supervisors check to make sure that there's portable outside and just get used to that. You have to assist with equipment, gross motor equipment outside as well. It's very rare I see a teacher actually assisting with equipment. We need to start doing that just to get ourselves used to it. So we don't want to have a list of things that we've got to do when accreditation people comes. We want to be doing it every single day so it's habit and we do not forget. If it's not dangerous outside, meaning air quality will make you wheeze, and that's got to be said by the weatherman, not because we think so. And then if it's not actively raining, and if the heat index and chill is between 32 and 95, guess what? We go outside. So I've heard that some people don't like it when it's wet outside and the kids might get their shoes wet or damp. That's opinion.
I'm that parent, but I send her shoes so that she can change her own shoes. She has black sweatpants at daycare and she has old ugly shoes. Well, they're really cute and good. But she can change herself, teach her that responsibility, and she knows. I remind her, Landry, change your shoes when you're going outside.
Wow.
Since she was 2, and she knows that's her responsibility. You can just remind children, and they will pick up on things.
There was a daycare, we went to a training one time, and obviously, many of our sites are too big to do this, but it was a smaller daycare.
Yeah.
And she had rain boots for all the kids. And every day, like, they went outside whether it was raining or not.
Gosh.
Like, obviously not hard, but sprinkling. Now, I know our parents would probably have a fit.
Yeah.
But she taught them, you know, to play in mud puddles and to enjoy the outdoors. That they each had their own little pair of rain boots, and I thought that was so cool.
Oh, that would be dreamy. I want to share with you what Bambi said. She has trained Landry to take off her good shoes and put on her outside shoes. Okay, Landry's been doing that since she was 2 years old. So, you know, when your parents say, oh, my child got their shoes wet yesterday, just explain to them. Unfortunately, we are made to go outside. Say it in a great way. You know, we have these 3 people, we have to follow their rules, and sometimes those rules drive us crazy, but we've got to do it. If you would like to send extra shoes, we can help train her to change, things like that. And man, what a day when kids can't go outside. Hey, for a teacher in Lenore City, I bought these little mini spray bottles for outside. I want to show y'all now because some of the giveaway bags have these in it. These are fruit squeezers, you know, to get juice from fruit, like you put your orange in there. Well, I saw this activity where you give kids these little bitty spray bottles, put it in a bucket outside. They spray their little cotton balls. I know you Zoomers can't see it. And then for a fine motor activity, you put them in these little plastic things and you squeeze the water out of them. And it keeps them so happy and occupied outside. But a couple of you guys will be getting those. All right. Moving on. 1050. Oh, KKDC puzzles. I know not everybody does this, but I see it at several places that drive me crazy. This is the way we store puzzles for kids. Materials have to be organized, accessible, and inviting. So what we're seeing is a bucket. You got 10 puzzles, and you take every piece of those 10 puzzles and throw them in a container, and they're all mixed up. Kids will not do puzzles like that. And if they do, they're smarter than me, because I tried to sit down the other day at a center and get all those puzzles worked, and it took me a good 30 to 45 minutes, and a lot of the pieces were missing. So there are ways, you know, that we can do this. Like, I love this puzzle hunt thing where you put the puzzles in there and it sits on the shelves, or just bring out your puzzles and sit them on the table for playtime so kids aren't running around with them and stuff like that. There you go. There you go. Just Velcro dots. So please problem solve through that. I know Madisonville needs to go through their puzzle pieces, and a couple other places. So let's get our puzzles back out, because the puzzles are #1 cognition tool for these kids, man. To work a puzzle, you're really using that brain power. And just don't put them out until it's free play, and then set them on the tables. We don't have to let them carry the puzzles around everywhere. Writing and reading, I'm going to try to go a little faster because it's 10:51 and we still have a bit. Writing and reading, NECPA says we got to do purposeful and functional writing daily. All right, so purposeful writing is when you're at circle time and you say, you write the word class, CLASS, and the whole group is watching you. Then functional writing would be putting these things into the writing centers that you guys should have, putting little guest checkouts in dramatic play, block center blueprints, things like that. Now, reading also should be happening formally and informally throughout the day. Formally means you sit them down as a group. Informal is going to mean you're just hanging out with a kid and reading him a book. You could even fit in that child interest component. If you see somebody's missing their mama and you say, I have a book about missing mama. Would you like to read it with me? Let's be putting books and writing pads in several areas, okay? Paper and pencil in dramatic play, take orders, things like that. Oh, one thing, there are some places that have like 100 books and they're not on a bookshelf, they're just kind of put in there. And that's fine because you, God, I keep losing my train of thought. That's fine because it's not really required. You have a bookshelf, but your emotion books, your theme books, and diversity books. In some rooms, it took a good 20 minutes to go through all of those books and find the ones that are required. So maybe take the books that are required and display them somewhere or something, definitely before accreditation people come.
Those are the only books my kids put away.
What's that?
If I set them out on top of the shelves, those are the only books they put away. So I put them in a tub when I know that's going to
People are coming.
happen.
Of course they do.
You learn, but if you've got cookbooks, put them in dramatic play. If you've got cookbooks about cars and trucks and construction, you can put them in your block area. You're exactly right. They will pull all those books off the shelf. And take and put them on the bookshelf instead of leaving them in those centers.
And then you have to hunt them again.
They notice them.
Yeah.
They're noticing those books, so that's good in a way.
It
They may
is.
not know the frustration, but you do notice that they notice those books if they're actually picking them up.
Who? Preschool, pre-K classrooms. Who does not have a writing center in their classroom? Anybody else? Where they sit down and free play?
We have the LCD writing tablets, and we have the dry erase patches and the dry erase boards.
These are just little things to start you off. I know it's hard. But it can be a little bitty table and one chair, or it could be one of those boards you put on your lap with a pillow and just a little thing full of writing stuff. Okay. This is display. Of course, you guys all really know this, but mirrors, mirrors, mirrors. We got to get mirrors up. I just wanted to add this study that they've shown. If a child is looking at themselves in the mirror or a mirror's nearby and they're fixing to make a bad decision, most of the time they will end up making the right choice because they're actually looking at themselves. Also, in grocery stores, at self-checkout lines, they're going to start putting mirrors up because they're having so many people steal stuff from the self-checkouts. And the research shows if you're looking at yourself, you won't steal stuff as often. Interesting. Family pictures. Just an idea, we have to have them at eye level, gonna be different from an infant to a preschooler. They got to be at eye level. Let the kids go look at their mom and dad when they're upset. This is centers. Dramatic play and blocks should be the biggest centers. That's where kids learn. Those two centers are so important. Make sure you have comfort in your reading areas. Some of you guys need to fluff up your cozy centers. Calm down centers. Right now, everyone should have a calm down center. If you need materials, Jennifer, if you need materials, I'm going to hook you up. So, where are we? Calm down centers. Who has calm down centers? Oh, I want to show you this though. This is just some jewels in the bottom of a little spray bottle. You put water in it and you say, oh, you're having a bad day. Let me put some magic spray. Run through it. And it's just another calming tool. And they get in their brain and they're like, oh my gosh, that works. So awesome. Okay. Some of these are this. Okay, calm down. Smell the flower and blow the bottle. Breathing tools. Again, I wish I had time to show you the video. Erica had a little kiddo, employees kid in her class who had one of these and was showing the children on the playground. It calm you down. Go. And showing like 2 or 3 friends how to calm themselves down. It's calm down material. All right, raise your hands, and I'm coming for calm down material. Anybody calm down? Yeah, I can make one. Yes. Anybody else back there need them? Yeah.
The one that's in room 7. Thank you.
Moving on. Who does not have or needs supplies for an art center that children are actually allowed to use? Who needs art stuff? Sometimes you go in the school, it's like art center that kids are. You may have seen art. Look, this is what I'm doing. Dollar Tree has wooden pieces for 75 cents. And I know it's not much, but I put glue in these little baby wooden pieces. Woodwork. You can also buy huge containers of random wooden pieces as well, but I got this at the Dollar Tree. Anybody who art woodwork? Okay. All right, I'm gonna give these out later. Okay, we just did a little giveaway. You should have been here. Well, I guess wood because it says carpentry on that NECPA thing. The styrofoam and all that would count for 3D, but I was scared we were going to have nails in every classroom at first, but then they come out and said, well, you can use glue and wood pieces. Not for 2-year-olds. No. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. We should ask him about it and see. I think they've talked to her about it, but
we have a woodworking shop if anybody wants scraps and things. They're willing to, if you want it, you can maybe bring it up. She comes down every now and then and I can get it back.
At home? You mean your husband has a woodworking shop or your cool. Ooh, get his scrap pieces.
He has more than he could ever want.
That's amazing. We need it. We need wood pieces. Okay, we are at 11 o'clock. Interactions, baby traps. That's one thing I've seen. I know we all have them, but NECPA says no longer than 15 minutes in a baby trap, because that's why I'm saying that. Well, that's what we called them in assessment, but also Deborah calls them that. I'm talking about swings and things like that. At NECPA, they call them baby traps. So 15 minutes.
And with the state, if you don't rotate them and use your timers, that is a violation. So if you're with little guys, you have to use timers.
For moving them from equipment to equipment. Okay. So with the state, you have to use those timers to rotate them as well. So we've got everybody telling us we can't use those regularly.
When they rotate them, they log when they rotate them.
From center to center. I did not know that. So infant rooms, you know, when people say, oh, those infant teachers have it easy. Not so much. You're doing SIDS, you're doing that logging.
So we're having trouble with our timers for just not lasting. We found that we can set timers on our Alexa.
There you go. Alexa timers. Use Alexa. I have an Alexa tip sheet that I'm going to give you in a minute too. It didn't really include baby stuff, but yeah, use Alexa for babies too. We are using lots and lots of directives. Directives is go do this, it's time for this, and I'm not hearing conversations, which is such a big deal for QRIS and NEC, but we got to have full conversations, back and forth stuff going on. Conflict resolutions. That is, what do you think we can do to solve this problem? So again, I've said outside time, never see anybody interacting outside. We're going to have to do that too. I take that back. There is one woman I've seen interact outside. Tiffany, actually. Yeah, so that has to change. And also the word no. I know there's such a stigma put on all that now. Just try to replace it with danger and their name. It's okay to say no every now and then. I do it too. I slip up all the time, but it is a habit too. So if you're saying no, 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 no all day long, try to say danger, get down, try this instead, those things. Mealtime conversations, even been in some rooms where they don't want kids to talk at meal times. It's very important that we are talking. Okay, here's the Alexa stuff. You remind Alexa, I'm going to give you a tip sheet on Alexa, but we have got to fix our schedules. It is so rare that I go into a room and the schedule that's posted is actually the schedule that you're going by. So take a copy of it, and as you're going through your day, make a real schedule of what you're really, really doing. Send it to someone who's in accreditation or something like that. I don't care to do it at all either, to make sure you are getting in the amount of center time versus routines and teacher directed. There's a lot that goes into a schedule. Have somebody check it before you post it. Waiting times, still such a big problem, especially between lunch and nap. I have some transition packages I'm going to give some of you guys that are here. Alexa, use her to help with transitions. Flashcards, hate them, hate flashcards, but they are so excellent for transitions. You're all waiting in the floor at the bathroom, pull out those flashcards. Ooh, what do you guys see here? And most of the time, it'll work. So yeah, making playlists on Alexa, such a big deal. Going outside. If it says on your schedule, you go outside from this time to this time, go out unless it's bad outside. Okay. No, I'm not giving away now. I'm running out of time. Okay, I'll give away soon. Group time. Can't force groups. However, came up on an incident where a therapist had told someone you have to force this group with the child. And that's okay. You need to follow that. But if you're having to chase the child, and in this instance, the lady was, and she wasn't even able to do her group time, and they were sitting there listening, they were so excited, and she was chasing this one child around because the therapist had said, you got to make him sit. So if that's the case, don't be scared to reach out to your director and say, hey, me and the therapist are going to have to figure something out and get a compromise, so that way that child gets what the therapist wants and you can control your class. I've only seen that happen twice in like 3 or 4 years. It's usually not a problem.
If your circle time's fun and engaging, then eventually that child will probably come around. You just have to make it, you know, planned ignoring, where let them do something else as long as it's quiet or they're not disrupting stuff. But you still got to focus on the group too. But
Yeah.
try to include them.
Because they want to be there. Yeah. And plan it and be intentional. This is just remembering that whole group, you know, dividing those up. I'm not going to go over it all because we watched a video. When they're at free play, do 3 separate groups depending on developmental age. If you need help with that, holler and I'll help. Conflict resolution, timeout. Licensing says never if they're under the age of 3. If they're 35 months, you are breaking licensing rules if you're putting them in timeout. 1 minute per year of their age. And that it is required through minimal licensing standards that you always discuss the problem after the time is up. For the other tool, QRIS, you have to stop negative behavior and replace it with positive. You can do timeout at a second attempt as long as you try to redirect. But if you got to do timeout again that same day, they're wanting behavior plans. So try not to use timeout a lot. And if you do, make it good, right? A calm down time. Yeah, just honestly, if you take the word timeout out of it, come on, you need to calm down. But you can exclude them also. Never harsh restraint, just lovingly hold. Okay. Oh, yeah, NECPA says no timeout at all. You always have to just use positive behavior management techniques. Okay. We're not going to watch these YouTube videos, but let me tell you, if you want to watch conflict resolution videos to understand what it's about, go to HighScope. HighScope, HIGHSCOPE, just like the magazine. They have some really great teacher interactive videos. We will be giving away some stuff after we get off of here. Okay, diapering tables. Only can be used for diapering. Take your junk off of it, find a new place.
I saw some people feeding kids off of them. Sometimes people just don't think. It's just a good, convenient, flat area.
Yeah.
People aren't thinking about it being a changing table. So sometimes you just have to remind them. That's gross.
Don't feed your kids off the changing table, please. Bleach bottles. We're going to have to pay attention to bleach bottles. We're going to have to change them out every day. It does not work unless you change them out. But a lot of classrooms, I don't see them pick up soap or bleach even once. So we got to get better at that stuff. I suggest using even a littler bottle for bleach, because then you know you're going to be trading it out because it's so small. And you should definitely be using all of that in one day. Sinks have to have water all day. It's critical. We've got to have water and we have to wash hands. Now they've come out and said so many people use if the child has control over his head, you don't have to wash their hands. They were using that so much as an excuse not to wash hands that they're saying 6 weeks and up, you better be washing those babies' hands. So, yeah. If we got to figure out a sink plan, y'all. It's crazy. Those sinks aren't cheap. Drinking water has to be available just outside. Work with your director on that, but that is a NECPA guideline. We're back to the old ways of diapering. I was going to demonstrate. I am no longer going to demonstrate. But I'll be glad to come to your center and do a diapering demonstration. I was so happy I got to be in Kingston in Whitney's room, and I was able to practice my diapering techniques. I'm very proud of them. So I would be glad to come in your room and change diapers for you if you need me to. I think you do need me to. If you guys are, what directors, if you've got a classroom that's not changing right, holler at me. Let me spend 30 minutes in there with diaper changes. I can show them that it can be done. Almost there. Safety. Lunch baskets are now required. You need wipes, extra spoons, napkins. Remember, make sure you're following the bottle rules. I'm not going to go over those because it's a touchy subject, but just keep it in the back of your mind. Stools for hand washing. Check your stools. Make sure the kids can even reach the water. Sometimes they can't. If you need a new stool, ask for one. No babies on tummies at all. Believe it or not, it happens. And I think the biggest part of that is where you got Kim and Tara doing orientation and teaching these new employees how to put a baby down for safe sleep, SID sleep. And then they get into the classroom and they see somebody put a baby under 12 months on their belly because that's the way they sleep the best. We got to not do that. That's undermining Kim and Tara as well, because it's a huge violation. Okay.
But if they're flippers and rollers and all that,
Right.
and they land, they can still be on.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But
And
you got to start off on your back.
Always
Yeah.
start on the back. We've got SIDS training. If you ever see that happen, don't be scared to come out and say something. That goes for diapering as well. When, Kim and Tara go over all of this diapering and hand washing, and then they send them out into the centers, and you guys are not, ever washing any kid's hands after diapering, not spraying that stuff. It's like they go from learning the right way and then they get put in the classroom. You got to be a mentor. You got to show them back up with action what they're telling them on orientation day. Anybody got plants in their classroom? If you do, you now have to have a little information sheet stating their toxicity, that they're non-toxic. So make those. And your room setup. All I wanted to do with this, take a picture of it if you want, do a snapshot. I just want you guys to be intentional when you are setting up your materials and setting up your room, because it is going to change everything for you. You make sure that this dramatic play area is fun and not just a little bitty square because it's required. Put some work into those classrooms. I love this little picture, this little boat. Obviously, this is a very rich center. But see, they got little hills. It's like a gross motor room. How dreamy. Oh, if I were a billionaire. Okay, and this is the last thing I just want to tell you guys. Even though you're not doing the lesson plans as teachers, there is a spot for extra things. So that way you can do child-led, interested, what are they interested in, and then transfer it to that spot. Use anecdotals, which is notes. You saw a child building a tower, but he couldn't figure out that there needs to be a base for that tower. Put that into your plans for that child and sit down with him and help him. That's how kids grow. Help him learn that you got to have a good base before you build. Okay. Okay, Zoomers, I've got your name. Yeah, if you want any papers or anything from this training, just holler at me after it's done. I'm gonna end you guys, Zoomers, okay? Thanks for attending. 1 hour and 15. I'll be putting in credit, but it won't be till next week, okay? I'm ending meeting for all. Have a great Saturday.